do so at this time. Today we gather to honor and remember a remarkable man, John Alfred Graham III, known to most of us simply as Jak. A man of many names, many roles, many lives lived fully. He was a husband, dad, grandpa, coach, Scoutmaster, soldier, and to some even Friar Jak. But more than any title, he was a man who lived deeply, learned constantly, and gave generously. Jak once wrote something that feels especially fitting today. He said that memories might seem like vanity, but that maybe, just maybe, sharing stories could help others understand who they are and where they came from. And if there's one thing we know about Jak, it's that he believed in teaching. He taught not just in classrooms, but in life, and today we remember the lessons he left behind. Jak's story began in 1945 in Toledo, Ohio. Born into a hard-working family that shaped his character from the very beginning, he grew up surrounded by farms, tools, animals, and strong hands that knew how to build, fix, and provide. From a young age, he learned responsibility, not in theory, but in practice. He helped with chores, cared for animals, delivered newspapers, and supported his family. He didn't just grow up, he contributed. And that set the tone for the rest of his life. Some of the earliest memories were not just stories, but lessons. Like the time he touched a red-hot stove as a toddler, left a scar, but more importantly, taught him something he never forgot, that wisdom matters. Sometimes we learn it the hard way. Sounds like he did. The ideas carried through his life. He believed deeply that experiences, even painful experiences, was one of life's greatest teachers. Jak's childhood was full of adventure. He told stories of riding broomstick horses through tall weeds, imagining himself in the Wild West, skating across frozen ponds, of building forts, rafts, and dreams of whatever he could find. He didn't need much to create joy. He had curiosity, imagination, and a willingness to try. That curiosity never left him. In fact, it became one of his defining traits. He explored everything: engineering, teaching, leadership, faith, technology, and more. He was just interested in life, and he was fully engaged in life. Jak wasn't a core teacher. He began teaching in some form when he was 14 years old and continued for over 60 years. Think about that. 6 decades of helping others grow and understand the world. He taught classrooms from middle school to college. He served as a professor, a principal, and an educational leader. He also taught on scout camps, in churches, on sports fields, and at home. He taught through conversation, through example, and through the way he lived. He believed in learning by doing. It was rebuilding machines, working in engineering labs, or experimenting with ideas. Jak was always figuring things out. He didn't just accept knowledge, he pursued it. He didn't just keep it to himself, he shared it freely. Even after retirement, he continued teaching without pay, without expectations, simply because he loved it. Because helping others understand was who he was. Jak also lived a life of service. He served in the United States Army for 6 years, retired with honor, and 13 years as a teacher for the Department of Defense in Turkey and Japan. He was a leader not just in rank, but in character. He carried discipline, commitment, and responsibility to everything he did. But if you ask many of those who knew him best, one of the places he truly came alive was in scouting. He was a Cubmaster, a Scoutmaster, a mentor, a guide. He didn't just teach skills, he shaped young lives. He helped young people learn courage, responsibility, and leadership. And not just by preaching, but by doing it alongside them. Jak also had a deep sense of humor. He could tell stories that made you laugh, think, and sometimes shake your head all at once. Jak once wrote that memory had holes like Swiss cheese. But what remains is not what was forgotten. What remains is what mattered. And what mattered was how he lived. He lived with curiosity. He lived with purpose. He lived with a desire to understand and to help others understand. So today, as we remember him, we don't just look back, we carry forward. We carry forward the lessons he taught, the stories he shared, the example he set. Because the best way to honor Jak is not just to remember him, but it is to live a little more like him. Stay curious, to keep learning, to serve others, to laugh, to try even when it's hard, and never stop growing. He saw life not as something to fear, but as something to explore. Even in difficult moments, he found meaning and often a lesson. He believed the life wasn't about avoiding mistakes, but it was about learning from them. He believed that curiosity was worth the risk. That growth often came through discomfort, but the best stories came from actual living. Some of the most important chapters in Jak's life were shared with his wife, Diane. Together they built a life rooted in family, resilience, and love. Whether raising their children, navigating the many moves, and challenges that came with his career, or simply sharing everyday moments, Diane was a steady and essential part of his journey. In his stories, you see glimpses of the life together, moments on the farm, raising their children, facing challenges, and finding joy in the simple things. Their partnership was not just about time spent together, but about building something lasting, a family, a legacy, and a life with shared experiences. Jak wore the many, many uniforms in his life: scout uniform, military uniform, academic roles, and even armor and historical reenactments. But those uniforms weren't what defined him. What defined him was what he stood for: commitment, learning, service, and family. Above all, he loved his family. He was a father of four, grandfather to many, part of a legacy that will continue far beyond today. His stories, his lessons, his humors, and his values, they live on in each of you. Jak's story doesn't end here, it continues in all of you. Thank you, Jak. Thank you for a life well lived. Lessons you gave, a legacy you left behind. You'll be deeply missed, and you'll never be forgotten. We love Jak in our ward, in our neighborhood, and having him as part of our lives. At this time, we're going to move forward, and we're going to have his son, Steve, share some small stories about his life and things he learned from his father. Following Steve, we'll then hear from his daughter, Kate, who will share stories. And finally, our concluding person to address us will be his brother, Gregory, and we'll go to that point.
Get started here. Got my phone. Yeah, okay, I'm good. I need my mom's comfort chicken right now. I don't have any stories because, individually, his stories, if you really knew him. So I thank you. I thank you for being here. One thing I do want to leave with you is he always said, take pause in your life. Stand where you are, enjoy the moments, because they go by so quickly. I shouldn't have done this. I knew if I did, it would happen. Thankful for my father in many ways. The many travels and moves that we had through our childhood taught us to be flexible. He taught us that if you have to make a move, it's okay. Have a plan. Have a goal. could be here from North Carolina to visit, to share a few stories of his childhood with him. My Uncle Greg was part of our life growing up. Meant a lot to our family. I'm glad he's here. I'm glad that my brother can be here with his wife and his family. I'm thankful for my sisters to help with all the arrangements, and thankful for all your friends. Thank you for all the neighbors. Those who are here are truly good friends to my family. So I guess all I want to say is thank you. And thank you, Dad.
I'm glad you went first because I could get all the sobbing out. My first memory of my dad was when he was about 4, and he would come home from work and sit in his big blue leather chair, and we would wait for Mom to finish cooking. I remember sitting there a lot, do that a lot. Come in his lap and just hold on to his chest, play with his shirt and his buttons. I felt so much comfort and safety and strength being there. And I loved all the times that he would say goodnight to me, pick me up in his arms, give me a kiss on the lips, and set me down. And I think I was about 10 or 11 when he couldn't do that anymore. But we still, it's like those feelings of strength and comfort and safety just follow me through my life. I love so many of the things that I love in my life because of my dad. I'm a science teacher, like my dad. I love finding where the fairies live on the hiking trails, like my dad. And the sleeping dragons in the mountains, like my dad. I love Star Trek, like my dad. And playing diceless combat. All the D&D games he would sit with us and teach us how to do. And my brother Dave making all the clay monsters. It's good stuff. So many good times. I don't know who started it, but when we were all little, the 4 of us would take the Sunday newspaper, roll it up, and sort of write each other until the newspapers were in shreds on the floor. And we knew to clean it up afterwards, but then when he taught me how to sword fight with real swords, it was very different, and I loved it. I'm so proud of being his daughter. I'm so proud. I'm proud of myself because of him. To say that will miss him some understanding. last words he said to me was, "Love you." He smiled. I'll miss you, Dad. I love you.
Oops. Fall over. I guess you could say I was one of Jak's first students, being his baby brother. 12 and a half years older than I was, so I knew him through his middle school, teenage, college years, playing in a sand pile behind our big old aunt's house in Toledo. Little plastic soldiers and rubber bands and rocks for bombs. Doing his little strategies and war games with his little brother and his little sister, my twin sister, Elaine. We had no clue what we were doing, but we had the grandest time playing with our big brother. And that stemmed from that. Some of the things that he did as a young man. I've been telling people these stories. When he was, I guess, 17 or so, he was still high school. My sister April, who was 7 years older than me, 5 years younger than Jak, we went to the Perrysburg Hill. Anybody knows anything about Toledo, Maumee, and Perrysburg, that's where our family originated. And we went to the Perrysburg Hill on the Maumee riverbanks. And it was a decent-sized hill and ran right down to the river. There was a bit of a ditch, and then you flew over that and be in the river. So there are two massive oak trees at the bottom, about so far apart. He handed my sister a dime. You could still make a phone call back then with a dime from the payphone, saying, "If I don't make it, here's a dime, call Mom and Dad." So he hopped on a belly sled, went head first down that hill, through between those trees. He made it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today. That's one story. The other story, which I remember the most, his life love, Diane. He didn't want to miss a dance. Well, he had a little accident that day. He had an old police tricycle motorcycle. I don't know if you can picture it, but he's riding home. I don't know if it was from work or school or whatever, his college years. And he didn't negotiate a turn, went over the guardrail, flipped the motorcycle right over, basically over top of himself. He gets up, covered head to foot in blood, and was pushing that motorcycle about a mile down Ogons Road. A neighbor drove by, he asked him, "Man, you need to go to the hospital." He said, "No, I got to dance tonight." So Elaine, my twin sister, and I get home from school. We go up the stairs to the second floor. He's in the big family bathroom in front of the mirror, looking at the mirror and patching himself up. Band-aid here, Band-aid there. And we ask her mother, "What's going on?" "Well, Jak had an accident, but he doesn't want to miss the dance because he loved his Diane." So that's the two little stories I have about Jak. Now, like I said, I was probably one of his first students. I followed him around. I had started my schooling, my college years in St. Louis, Washington U. Went there 2 years, dropped out. I was an engineering major, and I didn't know what to do with myself. I ended up joining the Ohio Army National Guard, and my other brother, Alan, told me about the tuition the Guard would pay, so I went back to school. Where did I attend school? Well, the University of Toledo. Well, guess who was at the University of Toledo? Associate Professor Jak Graham. So basically lived in that area, joined the family. My nephews and nieces remember Uncle Greg being around a lot of the time. And so I finished my degree work there, an associate's and bachelor's. Well, Jack got the funny idea, hey, let's go on a Florida vacation. Well, it wasn't no vacation, we moved the entire family to Florida. So where did Greg go? Well, he finished school and went to Florida, stayed at Jack's house and got a job. Enjoyed the pool in the backyard and threw the nephews and nieces around. So, like I said, I've been a follower of Jack, and he did teach a lot of good life lessons. And it's all sitting right here. His pride and joy, his family. That's the Graham wealth. From every Graham, from my dad on, my grandfather on down, we've sat in groups like this when we've lost our patriarchs and matriarchs and discussed what makes us rich. It's family. It's pride and joy. So I'm going to miss you, big brother. And I hope I don't follow you too soon. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. That was a great insight into who Jack is. As his bishop, I had a great opportunity to spend some good time with him, and I just want to say, we're going to miss you, Jack. We're going to miss you. And we all love you. And I say that in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. I want you to just feel free to just go back to what we were doing previous and just enjoy each other's company and enjoy that rich Graham family. Thank you, Diane.